morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good. Of course. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate your interest in documenting your journey as you get this shop and get ProShop and share that with the world. So thank you on behalf of everyone that's going to watch this.
Well, the thanks goes two ways because everybody needs good vendors, and when you find one, you're really happy that your questions are answered, and your doubts are allayed, and you feel like you're in good hands. So thank you for putting together a good team.
Our pleasure. So I was really curious actually just about your story in general, working in industry and then deciding to buy a shop and become a shop owner. Could you share a little bit of your story with us?
I was privileged to have a father who was very hands-on. He used to come to my 7th grade class, pull me out of there and take me to machine shops all over the country as he traveled as an engineer for General Electric. And so I cut my teeth there working through college at machine shops, and have worked in companies that always had a machine shop. And I was a salesman on the road. And this February, I was invited to do something else by my boss, who just told me that the position didn't pay what I was making anymore. So we came to a very amicable agreement to go our different ways. And my wife told me about a very unfortunate incident here on Hilton Head Island, where a shop became available through the untimely death of its owner. And I had no idea how that would ever work out, but through the help of my brother and myself and 2 of his friends, one of which is my friend, we decided that this was by far the best and highest use of the rest of my working life. I was going to bring together everything that I had spent 20, 25 years doing. And this seems like what you ought to do. And when it is that, you sort of put down the resistance and you say, all right, this is a scary thing to do. Put in your life savings and you say, this is what we're going to do. This is what everything is built up to. And I was not expecting to be doing anything different right now than I was doing last year, but I am exceptionally grateful for the opportunity. And I just can't imagine doing anything else now. So I came into it by virtue of somebody else's decision.
Okay. And no less in the middle of a pandemic. One of the worst economic.
That's right. It was just getting kicked off, and the pandemic, that is. And you would think that would have caused a greater amount of consternation, but actually it worked out to where I didn't feel any pressure to do anything because nobody was doing anything. Mm-hmm. And so it just felt like coasting along down the stream. Right. And it gave me the luxury of time to study in depth about what I wanted to do. And with my brother's help, he and I worked 2 months at least on an extremely detailed, well thought out business plan. I've got a 10-year business plan of how we want to grow this company and what exactly we wanted to do. And I felt no pressure at all to do it now, to get a paycheck in my pocket. I saved, my money for a rainy day. And I just felt no pressure to do this. And my brother's 15 years older than me, which makes him 35, right?
Of course.
And his wisdom and just patience with me, just to ask the tough questions, what do you want this to look like? And pressing me to to think deeply. Um, there's a Japanese term that kind of goes in with this, um, the 5S culture, the
Hmm.
TPS system, Toyota Production
Yep.
System.
Yeah.
And I'm probably butchering it, but it's something like Genchi Gabanshu. And that term doesn't mean to, it sort of means to like observe, but it really means to look deeply into something, to know it within,
Right.
and not just see what's on the surface.
That's beautiful.
And so I sort of employed that within myself. I was very satisfied doing what I was doing. I was extremely successful doing it. And I loved doing it. And when it was pulled out from under me, it forced me to think, all right, you were having fun. The dials were set to autopilot, you know?
Sure. So it
But
sounded like it was a little scary, but there was a piece about it, and then sort of a mission that you felt like this was the right thing for you.
I felt like the mission was given to me.
Right.
And it wasn't something that I imagined. This is what I wanted to do. I didn't point at something and said, this is what I wanted to do. It sort of came to me and said, this is what you ought to do.
Right.
And I just agreed with it.
Okay.
That was it.
Go with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you started, once you kind of had your plan in place, I guess, you started doing some research, started looking for what kind of machines you wanted, what kind of software you wanted. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Well, having been around a lot of machine shops, the thing that I noticed that there were a lot of machinists who wanted more than what they had. And I have always been friends with the guys in the shop, and um, for some reason they felt comfortable telling me, about their struggles with management and trying to do things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go out on a lot of assembly lines, and the people in this country, I served an area between Philadelphia and El Paso and everything south of that line. So a lot of factories.
Yeah.
And it always occurred to me that the people out there on the line, you know what they wanted? They wanted to do things right. They wanted to do things the right way and go home safely.
Sure.
And their biggest struggle wasn't what they were doing. It's how they were doing it,
Mm.
and the people that they had to answer to when they knew that things weren't right. And people can find out a lot about what's wrong with their company by asking the people who are getting it done and not imagining what they think they know.
Yeah.
So the machinist that I came up on had a story about prints being wrong, about the updates, that they were manufacturing parts that were the customer's previous iterations, and they did not know that. So the frustration that they would feel wasn't, I mean, they were there for 8 hours a day, they're getting paid the same regardless, but it was a frustration internalized in them that caused their job not to be so good that day. There wasn't any difference in what they were being paid.
Sure.
But
They
why
care.
didn't they know?
Yeah, they care about doing a good job. They really do.
More often than not, I found that people were just interested in doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So when I became, involved in doing this, I thought, well, what's the best way to do this? And I was selected in my previous job as implementation head for for the CRM for SAP that the company started to implement in 2016. And I was flown to Germany and got introduced to the software developers about what really would be best. And the product of that was anything but. Really. It was, I tell you, it was a compromise between what the company wanted to put in and what the software developer wanted to do.
Mm.
And I don't know that is still implemented to this day. So I had an exposure of one particular ERP system that I knew I wanted to avoid, not necessarily that ERP system. I wanted to avoid the pitfalls of implementing an ERP system that way.
Sure.
So I looked at, the alphabet soup of ERP. I called Oracle, I called SAP, I called, those people.
Right.
And, realistically, Oracle just looked at me and said, yeah, no, that's not what you need. And they were actually referred me to another common ERP system that's used. But what I found was that in this alphabet soup of companies, and I did not know this, but there are over 250 companies out there
Oh yeah.
that are doing this.
It's crazy. There's a lot.
And even if you filter them to like those that are appropriate for job shops that we have, you're still left with 150. So how do you get to ProShop through that? Really,
It's my challenge.
that is your challenge, because everyone has 4 stars, so sorting them by stars. So I maybe I was lucky or whatnot, but the ones that I really spent time with, the ones that I got the demo, that I got their brochure, that I really dug deep in, and there was probably 8 of those.
Yep.
They left me with this lingering sense of uncertainty. I just kind of every time I would take notes, and I probably have 15, 20 pages of notes, and a lot of time, probably a month invested of work invested in ERP solutions. Uncertain, do not know. And one of the things that was important to me was a QMS that was not a bolt-on, that was going to have to call another company. And I wanted one nectaring.
Sure, of course.
That's what I came up with. And while I did find that there was another company out there who presented themselves as being, a fully integrated QMS with their ERP, I never got that warm and fuzzy that this was going to be my solution. And when I finally contacted you at ProShop, I had all this tape running in the back of my mind. This is going to be another guy. He's going to sell me. And at the end of the day, I'm going to write uncertain. And I had to have a couple of calls with you. One of them was, what was it, Paul? Like 3? Was it 3 hours? Was it 2 hours?
Oh yeah.
What was it? Do you remember?
It was probably it was closer to 3, I think.
It's a 3-hour call. And I wasn't really listening to what you were saying in that call. I was listening to what you were not saying. I'm sorry, I'm having some electrical and machine work done in the background.
So no problem. Sure that's the life of a job shop.
But as you were talking, and I want to divorce this from personality talk.
Okay.
Because as great as your personality is, it was a conversation that we had, that everything that we addressed touched on everything that was important to me, which may not be important to everyone out there. But what was important to me was that I left no stone unturned in terms of its quality to my customers' perception. I can think it's the greatest thing in the world, but I don't really care what goes on in this 4 walls of my building. I care about my customer experience and what they see. And everybody was talking to me about how great this would be for me and how easy it would be to implement. And yeah, I mean, all those things are nice. But what I really wanted to know about was, well, what would the result to my customer be? And between what you and your team have done at ProShop and what my objectives were, the ProShop result was what I was looking for. And so as I felt a little embarrassed to accept your invitation to do this for 3 hours. But at the end of the day, I thought, you know what? If he's all smoke, then I'm going to cut him off like I cut off. I just hit end, and I didn't care. I mean, hey, they were taking my time on several of these calls. I was just like, okay, well, thank you very much. I gotta go. Goodbye. Click.
Sure.
Because I was done hearing about them.
Right.
That's not important to me. My customers and their experience with my shop was the bottom line. And
yeah, they're the lifeblood of your business, your customers.
Nothing happens without the sale. And then after the sale, I need them to come back because, as everybody knows, the cost of acquiring a new customer is the highest cost. So,
sure.
So those were the things that I was looking for. What bucket was going to get filled up? Was it going to be the ProShop bucket, how great ProShop was? Or was it going to be the bucket that we're going to serve RX industry so great? Or was it going to be, and here's what it means to your customer? And every touchstone that was important to me was that third bucket. And so I don't expect this implementation to go flawlessly. I expect it to take time. I expect it to be frustrating, but the resultant is what I'm after, and that is the end result to my customer. So that was the process that I went through. I didn't get a bunch of uncertainty underlines in our marathon interview. But in the process of forming my shop, I wanted to address those things that those shop guys that I've known since college would address about how they were staying informed, how they could meet the customer needs. You know how many machinists get to meet a customer? None.
Sure.
Right? Very few. But you know how many of them that I've come across that really think about the customer? A lot. And this idea of implementing ProShop, where eventually I hope to take you out to the shop and I want to show you
That'd be great.
how our team will interact with the customer and the customer's goods, and how this will become just sort of a place where we're here to serve. And how can we do that best? And what information can we bring to the very heart and soul of this company? As far as I'm concerned, I think that ProShop has addressed all my concerns as to how that is going to be done. So,
well, that was very interesting. I appreciate you sharing those thoughts. I've, doing what I do every day, I just kind of do what I think makes sense, but I hadn't ever really thought about it in that way. So I appreciate the perspective.
Well, I'm trying to bring the perspective of the people who are doing the servant's work of the customer. It's generally not me. I'm probably in the way more often than not. And to some degree, I hope that ProShop helps me get out of their way.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's very likely true. Okay, so we talked for a long time. We actually did some demos and showed you how it worked. And then we sent you a proposal. And you said something to me just on the phone the other day about how the experience of getting your proposal and then sort of the onboarding and welcome was all very consistent with what kind of you would expect of a paperless system. And I also hadn't thought about that particularly, but yeah, share your thoughts on that, please.
Well, obviously ProShop wasn't the only customer that sent me a proposal, but what was a disconnect was, okay, if you're using the best systems, why is this, so archaic in the way that you're asking me to onboard? And ProShop was the last proposal that I received, and I was looking for an email with an attachment that I was going to print out and read and sign and scan and send back. And when it came to me as a linkable document that was archivable in a place where I know I wasn't going to lose it and gets folded, spindled, and mutilated, that it just was an affirmation that, okay, I'm dealing with the right people here, because all the options were available, a clear understanding of expectations, just the transparency and connection between what you do and how you do it was I just really appreciated that part of it.
That's cool. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here, and I'll share for folks what you actually get to see or how it works. Okay. So let's see. So yeah, when someone asks us for a proposal, we gather some information about the number of users and license types, because that's the way we sell ProShop. And then we put it into this system that we use, and we send something that looks just like this. So it has sort of a cover, and this was yours back in July. You can even watch a little video about us if you want to, or about ProShop. And then it goes into the proposal, a little bit more about the company and our history, and then into the rest of it, which I won't get into later and get into. But you're right. Then if it all looks good, you can even toggle the numbers. I don't know if you did that, change certain options or how many license types, all right there, in real time. And then at the bottom, did you? Yeah. And then at the bottom, there's a little signature button, and you digitally sign it. That alerts us, and then we countersign it, and that kicks off the process. And so then probably the next day or later that day, you received a welcome email, right, from our team, our customer service team. Right. And that linked you onto this page. And this page looks a little different than what you saw, because we were continuously updating it. So it would have said RX Industries right here. And right. And can I get your thoughts on just what this process was like?
Sure. I got this, and I thought, oh, they're more prepared than I am. But it followed the same methodology of the proposal. And you go back to clicking on the different links. And one of the conversations, I don't know if you remember us having, but I was not totally sure that I wanted to do the, what was the option of the not fast start?
Flying start package.
Flying start package.
Yeah. And
just being able to go through the quote and toggle through that and what was going to be required of me. But getting to this page was a really good understanding of what you were going to be asking for, what I was supposed to come up with. I didn't have the internet connected. I hadn't even closed on the shop as yet. So obviously I didn't even have internet at the shop. So I wasn't able to answer those questions, but it really helped me understand what my to-do list was going to be, and how you guys were going to be using that equipment and getting me integrated. I did have some tooling. There's some sheets in there with, loading up your tooling and your equipment. And having that available was, although I wasn't ready to give that information, because a lot of it I didn't have, the thoroughness was good. I wasn't, it was all in one place. And I didn't feel like I was going to be nickel and dimed for information. It was, here it all is. It was like, okay, I've got some homework now.
Sure. Yeah, well, not even having closed on your shop by the time you're looking at this, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So, so then with these sheets, you filled them out and got them back to us, and we then use that data to upload into your system to have it, you know, sort of as ready for you as it could be. And then you also scheduled sort of an intro meeting with our implementation lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you
Right.
tell me a little bit about that meeting?
Well, it's obvious that, you know, Paul, when you and I were talking, that you had a command and control of the product and what it was going to do for me. But everyone that has touched RX Industries hasn't just been glad handing or answering one piece of equipment. Everybody's been a real professional, and they seem to know what their role is in getting me passed off from one person to the next person. So I was received. I would give that. I would call it that. I was received in the pro shop by somebody who said, "Okay, we have this information from you. We don't have all of this information from you. The next thing that's going to happen is X, Y, and Z." And there would be a calendar invite. There would be a schedule for it, and I knew what to expect. And so, going back to how I came to Pro Shop with that uncertainty, and I literally would underline that word when I would get there, never came up again, and still has not come up again. Of nothing is uncertain about what's going to happen next. Right. A lot of it, I am driving. I could do this a lot faster if I were smarter and faster at what I was doing. But I'm wearing a lot of hats at the moment. But Pro Shop is ready. Pro Shop is sitting on go, and they're just kind of waiting. And you know, I'll circle back. I'll get back to you. And I've had to reschedule a couple of meetings, but it's always Pro Shop sitting on go, waiting on me. And you know, the waits aren't long, but I do appreciate you guys are organized. You guys are ready, and you know, how much fire hose I can drink through is how much you want to give, how much you want to give to me.
That
so
is true. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot. So, but these pages, these introductory pages, I don't feel like anything's being sprung on me. You know, it's not just the next step, it's the next process. And then after that, we're going to be going through this and that, the other thing. And there's somebody on the other end of the phone who's taking the slack out of the rope every time you call. Right. So it's really been a nice pull through method that isn't leaving me wondering when the next thing is going to happen or what's going to happen next. And that's just been so consistent. And something I've really appreciated is removing the uncertainty.
I'm glad to hear you say that. That just underscores the importance of our process and continuing to improve it.
Well, it mirrors what I'm trying to do with my customer experience.
Yeah. I was actually, I thought about that as you were saying. You know, I guess I realized the way we run Pro Shop is the way we designed Pro Shop, the software product, to actually work for our customers, right? Always knowing what's coming next, knowing what's expected, so your customers, you know, get a consistent experience as well, and they can always know, you know, from you what's next, and they won't have uncertainty from you at RX Industries.
Well, I have a customer that you should probably go sell Pro Shop to.
Okay.
Because I just spent a lot of money with them, and I had no idea what was going to happen next. And as you well know, I was kind of.
Oh, you mean a vendor? A vendor of yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And they're a big company, and they pulled like a $170,000 surprise on me yesterday. It was a good surprise, but why?
Right.
You know. So
Hmm,
anyway,
interesting.
I'm sure they don't have Pro Shop.
I'm pretty sure they don't. We specialize in the
Uh,
smaller to medium-sized companies.
yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
so then after you met with Zach, who's been with us ever since ProShop was designed 20 years ago,
Hmm.
he introduced you to, so part of that meeting is to just learn more about you. I mean,
Hmm.
we already learned a lot. You and I, spoke a lot, but they wanted to add to that knowledge base. And then really choose the person on our team that was going to work best for you, your personality style, your time zone, all those things. And so you got paired up with Michael Hegwood, who's newer to our team, but is totally awesome. He actually worked at ProCNC, our former shop, for several years. And then he actually went and worked at another shop that was a customer of ProShop. So he started as a machinist, and then worked up into project management. And then we were very fortunate to have him come join our team just a few months ago as an implementation specialist. So he brings a wealth of knowledge. I know you've met with him once, right, by now, and
Right.
you're in good hands, and I know you're gonna be fast friends through the end of it. So
Well, I appreciate his patience, and he did not come in with a whole lot of preconceived notions about where we were. Now, those things that were already done or whatever, he ticked them off, and we went through those rather quickly. But there were some basic things, um, that we were trying to get through. I had a computer issue on my end, and wham, automatically, your IT guru was on the phone. We were trying a couple of different things. It wasn't working, but he had resources. He wasn't left um, just floundering, and he did whatever he could on his end. He couldn't have done anything. It turns out it was all on my end, but just I appreciate a little hand holding. I have just been wearing so many hats. I'm actually sick of IT uh, at the moment.
yeah,
Just trying to get accounts and computers set up and so forth.
sure.
So I do appreciate his hand holding.
Well, awesome. So that kind of brings us up to today. So you'll obviously continue with Michael on a schedule of, coupled a few times a week of your screen-based remote training. And we would love to take a tour of your shop. So next time or the time after, when you're ready for us,
Okay.
love if you take your iPhone and just walk us around and show us, and then we'll talk about how your actual training has been going, and what you're doing with that. So I look
Perfect.
forward to doing those with you.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are just going to be fascinated by it, and I think inspired by it. We've worked with a lot of new shop owners, even some that have bought new companies with even less experience than you have had.
Mhm.
I had a gentleman in Idaho who worked just more at the corporate level in aerospace companies. And he bought a machine shop for a change of lifestyle, moved from LA to Idaho, and has become a good friend and a real passionate customer. So look forward to having you in that group as well. And thank you again. We'll let you get on with the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you in another week or so.
My pleasure, Paul. Thanks for calling, and we'll talk to you again.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.